Hi guys, I continue my reading series and today's story, The Cop and the Anthem. I've read this story already. It was adapted for intermediate users and let's see how is it different in the original one. On his bench in Madison Square, Soppy moved uneasily. When wild goose hung high nights, and when women without sealskin coat grow kind to their husband, and when Soppy moves uneasily, uh, on the bench in the park, you may know that winter is near at hand. A dead leaf fell in Soppy's lap. That was Jack Frost's card. Jack is kind to the regular denis, denizens of Madison's denizens of Madison Square and gives fair warning of his annual call. At the corners of four streets, he hands his passport to the North Wind, footman of the Madison of all outdoors, so that is, so that the inhabitants thereof may make ready. Soppy's mind became cognizant of the fact that the time had come for him to resolve himself into a singular committee of ways and means to provide against the coming rigor, and therefore he moved uneasily on his bench. The hibernational ambitions of Soppy were not of the highest. In them were no considerations of Mediterranean cruises, of the soporific southern seas, or drifting in the Wiswan Bay. The romance of the island was the his soul craved. 3 months of assured board and bed and congenial congenial company, safe from boreas and blue quartz, seemed to Soppy the essence of things desirable. For years, the hospitable Blackwells had been his winter quarters. For years, the hospitable Blackwells had been his winter quarters. Just his more fortunate fellow New Yorkers had bought their tickets to Palm Beach and the Riviera each winter, so Soppy had made his humble arrangements for the annual Hera, He- Hera to the island, and now the time was come. On the previous night, three Sabbath newspapers distributed beneath his coat, about his ankles, and over his lap, had failed to repulse the cold, and he slept on his bench near this poor Spartan fountain in the ancient square. So the island loomed large and timely in Sobe's mind. He scorned the provisions made in the name of charity for the city's dependents. In Sobe's opinion, the law was more benign than philanthropy. There was an endless round of institutions, municipal and eleemosynary, on which he might set out to receive lodging and food accordant with the simple life. But to one of Sophie's proud spirit the gifts of charity are encumbered. If not in coin, you must pay in accumulation of spirit for every benefit received at the hands of philanthropy. As Caesar had his Brutus, every bed of charity must have its toll of a bath every loaf of a bread, its compensation of a private personal inquisition. Wherefore is better to be a guest of the law, which though conducted by rules, does not meddle unduly with gentlemen's private affairs. Soapy having decided to go to the island, at once set about accomplishing his desire. There were many easy ways of doing this. The, ple- the pleasantest was dine luxuriously at, to dine luxuriously at some expensive restaurant, and then, after declaring insolvency, be handed over quietly and without uproar to a policeman. An accommodating magistrate would do the rest. Soppy left his bench and strolled out of the square and across the level of sea of asphalt, where Broadway and Fifth Avenue flow together. Up Broadway he turned and halted at the glittering cafe, where gathered other nightly and choicest products of the grape, the silkworm and protoplasm. Soppy had confidence in himself for the lowest button of his waistcoat. He was shaven, and his coat was decent, and his neat black, ready tied, four in hand, had been presented to him by a lady missionary on Thanksgiving Day. If he could reach a table in a restaurant, unsuspected success would be his. The portion of him that would show above the table raised no doubt in the waiter's mind. A roasted mallard duck, though soapy, would be about the thing, with the bottle of Chablis and then camembert, a demi-tasse and a cigar. $1 for the cigar would be enough. The total would not be so high as to call for any supreme manifestation of revenge from the cafe management. And yet, the mint would be the meat. The meat would leave him filled and happy for the journey to his winter refuge. But as Soppy set foot inside the restaurant door, he had waiter's eye fill upon his frayed trousers and decadent shoes. Strong and ready hands turned him about. The convoy con- conveyed him in silence and haste to the sidewalk, sorry, and averted the ignoble fate of the minced mallard. Soppy turned off Broadway. It seemed that his route to the coveted island was not to be an Epicurean one. Some other way of entering limbo must be thought of. At a corner of Sixth, Sixth, at the corner of Sixth Avenue, electric lights and cunningly displayed wares behind plate glass made a shop window conspic- conspicuous. Soppy took a cobblestone and dashed it through the glass. People came running round the corner, a policeman in the lead. Soppy stood still, with his hands in his pocket, and smiled at the sight of brass buttons. "Where's the man that That done this, that inquired the officer excitedly. Don't you figure out that I might have something to do with it? Said Soppy, not without sarcasm but friendly, as one greets good fortune. The policeman's mind refused to accept Soppy even as a clue. Men who smashed windows don't remain to parley with the law's minions. They take to their heels. The policeman saw a man halfway down to the block running to catch a car. With drawn club, he joined in the pursuit. Soppy with Soppy with disgust in his heart loafed along, twice unsuccessful. And the opposite side of the street was a restaurant of no great pretensions. It catered to large appetites and modest purses. Its its crockery and atmosphere were thick. Its soap and nappy thin. Into this place Soppy took his accusing shoes and telltale trousers without challenge. At the table he sat and consumed beefsteak, flapjacks, donuts, and pie, and then to the waiter he betrayed the fact that the minute, minute, minutest coin and himself were strangers. Now get busy and call a cop, said Soppy. I don't keep a gentleman waiting. No cop of yours, of yours, said the waiter, with a voice like a butter cakes and the eye like the cherry in Manhattan cocktail. Hey, con, neatly upon his left ear and the callous pavement, two waiters pitched Soppy. He arose, joint by joint, as a carpenter's rule opens, and beat the dust from his clothes. Ours seemed but a rosy dream. The islands seemed very far away. A policeman who stood before the drugstore two doors away laughed and walked down the street. 5 blocks Soppy traveled before his courage permitted him to woo capture again. This time the opportunity presented what he fatuously termed to himself a cinch. A young woman of a modest and pleasing guise was standing before a show window glazing this sprightly interest and its display of shaving mugs and inkstands and 2 yards from the window. A large policeman of severe demeanor leaned against the water plug. Demi, Demeanor leaned against a water plug. It was Soppy's design to assume the role of the despicable and extracted masher. The, the refined and elegant appearance of his victim and the sorry and the cognitive of the constan consentio con, consentios sen, consentios Cope encouraged him to believe that he would soon feel the pleasant official clutch upon his arm that would ensure that his winter quarters of the right on the right little tight little isle. Soppy straight into the latest missionary's ready-made tight, dragged his shrinking cuffs into the open, set his head at a killing cant. He sidled towards the young woman. He made eyes at her, was taken with sudden coats and hams, smiled, smirked, and went brazenly through the impudent and con- contemptible litany of the measure. With half an eye, Soppy was there that the policeman was watching him fixedly. The young woman moved away a few steps, and then and again bestowed her absorbed attention upon the shaving mugs. Soppy followed, boldly stepping to her side, raised his head and said, there, Bedelia, Bedelia, don't you want to come and play with my yard?" The policeman was still looking. The pers- persecuted young woman had no had but bacon, had finger, and Soppy would practically en route for his insular heaven. Already he imagined he could feel the cozy o- warmth of the station house. The young woman faced him, and stretching out a hand, caught Soppy's coat sleeve. "Sure, Mike," she said joyfully, "if you will blow me to a pail of suds. I'd have spoke to you sooner, but the cop was watching." With the young woman playing the cleaning ivy to his ox, Soppy walked past the policeman, overcome with gloom. He seemed doomed to liberty. At the next corner, he shook off his companion and ran. He halted in the district where night found the lightest streets, hearts, woes, and liber- liberties. Women in furs and men in great coats moved gaily in the wintry air. A sudden fear seized Soppy that some dreadful enhancement had rendered him immune to arrest. The throw brought a little of panic upon it, and when he came upon another policeman lounging gravely in the front of the transplendent theater, he caught at the immediate straw of disorderly conduct. On the sidewalk, Soppy began to yell drunken gibberish at the top of his harsh voice. He danced, howled, raved, and otherwise disturbed the welkin. The policeman twirled his club, turned his back to Soppy, and remarked to a citizen, "'Tis one of them we Yale lads celebrating the goose egg they give to the Hartford College. Noisy, but no harm. With instructions to leave, leave them be." Disconsolate Soppy seized his unwilling racket. Would never a policeman lay hands on him? In his fancy, the island seemed seemed in unattainable Arcadia, an unattainable Arcadia. He buttoned his thin coat against the chilling wind. In a cigar store he saw a well-dressed man lighting a cigar at the swinging light. His silk umbrella he had set by the door on the entering. Soppy stepped inside, secured the umbrella, and sauntered off it with it slowly. The man and at the cigar light followed hastily. "My umbrella," he said sternly. "Oh, is it?" sneered Soppy, adding insult to petty Laurency. "Well, don't you call a policeman?" "I took it. Your umbrella. Why don't you call a cop?" "There stands one at the corner." The umbrella slowed his steps. Soppy did likewise, with the presentiment that luck would run against him. The policeman looked at the two curiously. "Of course," said the umbrella man. "That is, well, you know how these mistakes occur. I, if it's your umbrella, I hope you will excuse me. I picked it up this morning in a restaurant. If you recognize it as yours, why, I hope you will." "Of course it's mine," said Soppy viciously. The ex-umbrella man retreated. The policeman hurried to assist a tall blondie in the opera cloak across the street. In the front, in front of the streetcar that was approaching 2 blocks away, Soppy walked eastward through a street damaged by improvements. He hurled the umbrella wrathfully into into an excavation. He muttered against the men who wear helmets and carry clubs, because he wanted to fall into their clutches. They seemed to regard him as a king who, who could do not wrong. At length, Soppy reached one of the avenues to the east, where the glitter and the tum- turmoil was but faint. He set his face down this towards Madison Square, for the homing instinct instincts wars in even the home is a park bench. But on an unusually quiet corner, Soppy came to a standstill. Here was an old church, quaint and rambling and gabled. Through one violence-stained window, a soft light glowed, where no doubt the organist loitered over the keys, making sure his mastery of the coming Sabbath anthem. For there drifted out to the soppy's ears sweet music that caught on and held him transfixed against the convol, convol, convolutions, convolutions of the iron fence. The moon was above, lustres and serene, vehicles and pedestrians were few. Sparrows twittered sleepily in the heavens. Eaves. For a little while the scene might have been a country churchyard. And then the anthem that the organist played cemented, cemented Soapy to the iron fence, for he had known it well in the days when his life contained such things as mothers and roses, and ambitions and friends, and immaculate thoughts and colors. The conjunction of Sophie's respective state of mind and the influencers about the old church wrought, wrought a sudden and wonderful change in his soul. He viewed with swift honor the pit into which he had tumbled, the degraded days, unworthy desires, dead hopes, wrecked facilities, ra- wrecked, wrecked, rigged facilities, and base motives that made up his existence. And also in the moment his heart responded thrill, thrill, thrillingly to this novel mood. An instantaneous and strong impulse moved him to battle with his desperate fate. He would pull himself out of the mire. He would make a man of himself again. He would conquer the evil that had taken possession of him. There was a time. He was comparatively young yet. He would resurrect his own earlier ambitions and pursue them without faltering. Those solemn but sweet organ notes had set up a revolution in him. Tomorrow he would go into the roaring downtown district and find work. A fur importer had once offered him a place as driver. He would find him tomorrow and ask for the position. He would be somebody in the world. He would. Soapy felt a hand laid on his arm. He looked quickly around into the broad face of a policeman. "What are you doing here?" asked the officer. "Nothing," said Soapy. "Then come along," said the policeman. "3 months on the island," said the magistrate in the police cart next morning. Yeah, that's a good story of the luck. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.